Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Dragon. I'm Snappy, and thank you for joining me for our evening adoration to the Muses. And we cry out in loving adoration to the Great Mother, the twins, and the Muses, the one, duality, and generation. And we ask the Muses to sing in us the songs of inspiration, to guide us in our daily wanderings, and to teach us to listen and perceive with reason. With reasoned clarity. All right, now let us light our candles and begin our rights. Hail Hestia. All right. Thank you all for joining me on such a lovely, lovely evening. Let's give a shout out here to our beautiful chat. Much love to the Phoenix. Christy, much love. Stone Bible Studies, much love. Mother Panda, much love. D Love, much love. Kairos, much love. Cat the Taurus, much love. Valdane, much love. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all. All right. Now let us begin by discussing our astrology. We find ourselves under the moon in Scorpio. And the moon in Scorpio is such intense energy. The waters in their most raw and and like intense. You know, in some ways this is really really powerful because Scorpio has that deep intuition, that ability to go into the absolute depths of oneself, to really engage with the beautiful people around them and to know them intimately. But this energy also leads to an extraordinarily intense rawness for most people, right? You know, when we're under this weight, we feel that heaviness of empathy, right? As much as this is beautiful, if people are in a bad way, it's hard to be in this moment, you know, and we're all going to be feeling the weight of that Scorpio energy. So it's really important under this moon that we take a moment to ground ourselves and not allow ourselves to get awash in our emotions or in the emotions of others, right? But at the same time, now is a profound moment for deep transformation and intuition, right? The Scorpio is the most intuitive of the signs. And this energy really leads to high mystical connection. And if we engage in this, we can really engage in that true metamorphosis. You know, Scorpio in the tarot is the death card, the power of transformation, right? So take this moment to really engage in the depths of yourself, be open and honest, and be able to understand and recognize the people around you. You know, you have so much information to glean here. Just don't let it overwhelm you and shock you. All right. That's the magic of the moment. Love it. Okay. Now let's discuss our title here. I am a goddess of the ambrosial courts. This beautiful line comes to us from one of my favorite poems by an incredible poet, Robert Browning. Robert Browning. And Robert Browning is incredible, but their far more famous wife outshines them, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. But both of them are incredible, incredible poets. And we're going to read several poems by Robert Browning this evening. And we'll begin here with, let's get this tech working. We'll begin here with Artemis Prologizes. All right. I am a goddess of the ambrosial courts, and save by here, queen of pride surpassed, by none whose temples whiten this the world. Through heaven I roll my lucid moon along. I shed in hell o'er my pale people peace on earth. I, caring for the creatures, guard each pregnant yellow wolf and fox bitch sleek, and every feathered mother's callow brood, and all that love green haunts and loneliness of men the chaste adore me, hanging crowns of poppies red to blackness, bell and stem upon my image at Athenae here. And this dead youth, Asclepius, bends above, was dearest to me. He, my buskin step to follow through the wildwood leafy ways, and chase the panting stag, or swift with darts, stop the swift ounce, or lay the leopard low, neglected homage to another god, whence Aphrodite, by no midnight smoke of tapers lulled and jealousy dispatched, a noisome lust that, as the gad bee stings, possessed his stepdame Phaedra for himself, the son of Theseus, her great absent spouse. Hippolytus, exclaiming in his rage against the miserable queen, she judged life insupportable and pricked at heart an Amazonian stranger's race should dare to scorn her, perished by the murderous cord. Yet ere she perished, blasted in a scroll the fame of him her swerving made not swerve, which Theseus read, returning and believed. So, exiled in the blindness of his wrath, the man without a crime, who last as first, loyal, divulged not to his sire the truth. Now Theseus from Poseidon had obtained that of his wishes should be granted three, and this he imprecated, straight alive. May ne'er Hippolytus reach other lands. Poseidon heard, I. And scarce the prince had stepped into the fixed boots of the car that gave the feet a stay against the strength of the Hennetian horses, and around his body flung the reins and urged their speed along the rocks and shingles of the shore, when from the gaping wave a monster flung his obscene body in the courser's path. These mad with terror as the sea bull sprawled, wallowing about their feet, lost care of him that reared them, and the master chariot pole snapping beneath their plunges like a reed. Hippolytus, whose feet were trammeled fast, was yet dragged forward by circling rain, which either had directed nor was quenched the frenzy of that flight before each trace. Wheel spoke and splinter of the woeful car, each boulder stone, sharp stub and spiny shell, huge fishbone wrecked and wreathed amid the sands. On the detested beach was bright with blood, and morsels of his flesh. Then fell the steeds head foremost, crashing in their mooned fronts, shivering with sweat, each white-eyed horror fixed. His people, who had witnessed all afar, bore him back the ruins of Hippolytus. But when his sire, too swollen with pride, rejoiced, indomitable as a man foredoomed, that vast Poseidon had fulfilled his prayer. I, in a flood of glory visible, stood o'er my dying votary, and deed by deed revealed, as all took place, the truth. Then Theseus lay the woefulest of men, and worthily, but ere the death veils hid his face, the murdered prince full pardon breathed to his rash sire, whereat Athenae wails. So I, who ne'er forsake my votaries, lest in the crossway none the honey cake should tender, nor pour out the dog's hot life, lest at my fane the priests disconsolate should dress my image with some faded poor few crowns, made favors of, nor dare object such slackness to my worshippers who turn the trusting heart and loaded hand elsewhere, as they had climbed Olympus to report of Artemis, and nowhere found her throne. I interposed, and this eventful night, while round the funeral pyre the populace stood with fierce light on their black robes that blind each sobbing head, while yet their hair they clipped o'er the dead body of their withered prince. And in his palace, Theseus prostrated on the cold hearth, his brow cold as the slab 'twas bruised on, groaned away the heavy grief as the pyre fell, and down the cross legs crashed, sending a crowd of sparkles through the night. And the gay fire elate with mastery towered like a serpent o'er the clotted jars of wine, dissolving oils and frankincense and splendid gums. Like gold, my potency conveyed the perished man to my retreat in the thrice venerable forest here. And this white-bearded sage, who squeezes now the buried plant is Phoebus's son of fame, Asclepius, whom my radiant brother taught the doctrine of each herb and flower and root, to know their secretest virtue and express the saving soul of all who so has soothed with lavers the torn brow and murdered cheeks, composed the hair and brought its gloss again, and called the red bloom to the pale skin back, and laid the strips and jagged ends of flesh even once more, and slacked the sinews not of every tortured limb, that now he lies as if mere sleep possessed him underneath these interwoven oaks and pines. Oh, cheer, divine presenter of the healing rod, thy snake, with ardent throat and lulling eye, twines his lithe spires around. I say, much cheer, proceed thou with thou wisest pharmacies, and ye, white cord of woodland sister nymphs, ply as the sage directs these buds and leaves that strew the turf around the twain, while I await in fitting silence the event. This is such a wild poem and so incredible, right? So much fun. This is revealing us the story of the great Hippolytus, one of my favorite myths in both the Greek and the Roman literature. And Robert Browning stays in the Greek, but he alludes to the magic of the Roman counterpart, right? What we see here is the death of Hippolytus, right? Hippolytus was the son of Hippolyta and Theseus, and he was tormented by his stepmother. Stepmother fell in love with him and wanted to have him, and he refused to bed her. And because of this, she, in a rage, committed suicide and blamed him. And then, as we saw, Theseus hears this story, hears that Hippolytus slept with his wife and then she killed herself. And so he calls out to Poseidon to curse Hippolytus. And so Hippolytus is then, while driving in his chariot, he crashes and is torn limb from limb. But the great Asclepius is able to bring him back together, right? Prepared for the event. It ends with the event. What is the event that Robert Browning is alluding to? Well, this is where the Greek story ends and the magical Roman version begins. One of the things we saw is before Asclepius appears, they invoke the goddess Artemis. And this poem is called Artemis Prologizes, right? Because Artemis Diana is the force behind all of this. And she comes in at this point in the event. What happens next is, after they're able to return dear Hippolytus to life, Artemis appears and she spirits him away. She takes him to Aricia in Italy, to the marshes of Marsi, to the grove of Egeria of Diana Nemorensis, and he becomes the first priest king of the grove, and he changes his name to Verbius. And the grove there is wild. This is at the heart of all of the Roman mythos from its very foundations. And there's so much craziness here, you know. Go check out Diana Nemorensis and you'll find amazing stuff, right? Really fun. Okay. And that was our first poem, Artemis Prologizes. Oh, excuse me. All right. Let us continue. Our next poem we're going to read is a little bit of a shorter one. It's called Magical Nature by Robert Browning. Flower I never fancied, jewel I profess you. Bright I see and soft I feel the outside of a flower. Save but glow inside and jewel, I should guess you. Dim to sight and rough to touch, the glory is the dower. You, forsooth, a flower? Nay, my love, a jewel. Jewel at no mercy of a moment in your prime. Time may fray the flower face, kind be time or cruel, jewel from each facet, flash your laugh at time. Flash your laugh at time. Wow. Wild stuff here. Let's continue. All right. The next poem I'd like to read is called Mesmerism. Mesmerism by Robert Browning. All I believed is true. I am able yet. All I want to get by a method as strange as new. Dare I trust the same to you? If at night when doors are shut and the woodworm picks, and the death watch ticks, and the bar has a flag of smut, and a cat's in the water butt, and the socket floats and flares, and the house beams groan, and a foot unknown is surmised on the garret stairs, and the locks slip unawares, and the spider, to serve his ends, by a sudden thread, arms and legs outspread, on the table's mist descends, comes to find God knows what friends. If since Eve drew in, I say, I have sat and brought, so to speak, my thought to bear on the woman away, till I felt my hair turn gray, till I seemed to have hold in the vacancy twixt the wall and me, from the hair plate's chestnut gold to the foot in its muslin fold, having hold then and there her from head to foot, breathing in mute, passive and yet aware in the grasp of my steady stare, hold and have there and then all her body and soul that completes my whole, all that woman add to men in the clutch of my steady ken, having and holding till I imprint her fast on the void at last, as the sun does whom he will, by the calotypist's skill. Then if my heart's strength serve, and through all and each of the veils I reach to her soul and never swerve, knitting an iron nerve, command her soul to advance and inform the shape which has made escape, and before my countenance answers me glance for glance, I, still with a gesture fit of my hands that best do my soul's behest, pointing the power from it, while myself do steadfast sit, steadfast and still the same on my object bent, while the hands give vent to my ardor and my aim, and break into very flame. Then I reach, I must believe, not her soul in vain, for to me again it reaches, and past retrieve is wound in the toils I weave, and must follow as I require, as befits a thrall, bringing flesh and all, essence and earth attire, to the source of the tactile fire, till the house called hers, not mine, with a growing weight, seems to suffocate, if she break not its leaden line, then escape from its close confine. Out of doors into the night, onto the maze of the wildwood waves, not turning to left nor right, from the pathway blind with sight, making through rain and wind, o'er the broken shrubs, twixt the stems and stubs, with a still composed strong mind, nor a care for the world behind. Swifter and still more swift, as the crowding peace doth to joy increase, in the wild blind eyes uplift, through the darkness and the drift, while I, to the shape I too, feel my soul delight, and nor a white abate, and relax not a gesture due, as I see my belief come true. For there have I drawn or no life to that lip, do my fingers dip in a flame which again they throw on the cheek that breaks aglow? Ha! Was the hair so first? What unfillayed, made alive and spread through the void with a rich outburst, chestnut gold interspersed, like the doors of a casket shrine, see on either side her two arms divide, till the heart betwixt makes sign, take me, for I am thine. Now the door is heard. Hark the stairs and nearer and here, now, and at the call, and at the third, and at call the third, she enters without a word. On doth she march, and on to the fancied shape. It is past escape, herself, Now the dream is done, and the shadow and she are one. First I will pray, do thou that ownest the soul, yet wilt grant control to another, nor disallow for a time restrain me now. I admonish me while I may, not to squander guilt, since require thou wilt, at my hand its price one day. What the price is, who can say? Wow. Hail the muse. Hail that voice in the silence. How beautiful. How beautiful. All right. So the next and final poem we're going to read this evening is called Nymphaleptos, or Nymphaleptos, I should say. Nymphaleptos. And Nymphaleptos means to fall in passionate love with the nymph. To fall in passionate love with the nymph, right? You know, Robert Browning and Elizabeth Browning are what I consider dragons, people who just knew this stuff intrinsically, connected to the muse in ways few can ever understand. And you're going to see this on full display once again here. This is a wild poem, you know? Let's see. Right? Nymphaleptos is such an incredible word. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, you know? And, you know, Leslie, you got to check out Robert Browning because he knows all about Egeria. He's connected to the Artemis tradition in a way that's just wild. Yes, let's continue. Nymphaleptos. Still your hand, still you listen, still you smile. Still melts your moonbeam through me, white a while, softening, sweetening, till sweet and soft, increase so round this heart of mine that oft I could believe your moonbeam smile has passed the pallid limit, lies transformed at last to sunlight and salvation, warms the soul, it sweets, softens. Would you pass that goal, gain love's breath at the limit's happier verge, and where an iridescent lurks, but urge the hesitating polar onto prime of dawn, true blood streaked, sun warmth, action time, by heart pulse ripened to a ruddy glow of gold above my clay. I scarce should know from gold's self, thus suffused, for gold means love. What means the sad slow silver smile above? My clay but pity pardon at the best, but acquiescence that I take my rest, contented to be clay, while in your heaven the sun reserves love for the spirit seven, companioning God's throne they lamp before, leaves earth a mute waste, only wandered o'er by that pale, soft, sweet, disimpassioned moon, which smiles me slow forgiveness. Such the boon I beg. Nay, dear, submit to this, just this supreme endeavor. As my lips now kiss your feet, my arms convulse your shrouding robe, my eyes acquainted with the dust dare probe your eyes above. For what, if born, would blind mine with redundant bliss, as flash may find the inert nerve, sting awake this palsied limb, bid with life's ecstasy sense over brim, and suck back death in the resurging joy, love, the love whole and soul without alloy. Vainly the promise withers, I employ lips, arms, eyes, pray the prayer which finds the word, make the appeal which must be felt, not heard, and none the more is changed your calm regard. Rather, its sweet and soft grow harsh and hard. Forbearance, then repulsion, then disdain, avert the rest. I rise, see, make again once more the old departure for some track untried, yet through a world which brings me back, ever thus fruitlessly to find your feet, to fix your eyes, to pray the soft and sweet which smiles there. Take from his new pilgrimage your outcast, once your inmate, and assuage with love, not placid pardon now, his thirst for a mere drop from out the ocean erst he drank at. Well, the quest shall be renewed. Fear nothing. Though I linger, unimbued with any drop, my lips thus close. I go. So did I leave you. I found you so, and doubtlessly, if fated to return, so shall my pleading preserve and persevere and earn pardon, not love, in that same smile I learn and lose the meaning of, to learn once more vainly. What fairy track do I explore? What magic hall return to? Like the gem centuply angled o'er a diadem, you dwell there hearted, from your midmost home raised forth. Through that fantastic world I roam ever, from center to circumference, shaft upon colored shaft. This crimson's thence that purples out its precinct through that waste. Surely I had your sanction when I fared forth upon that untried yellow ray, whence I retract my steps. They end today where they began, before your feet, beneath your eyes, your smile. The blade is shut in sheath, fire quenched in flint. Iridation, late, triumphant through the distant, finds it fate merged in your blank, pure soul, alike the source and tomb of that prismatic glow. Divorce absolute, all conclusive. Forth I fared, treading the lambent flamelet. Little cared if now its flickering took the topaz tint, if now my dull caked path sulphury hint of subterranean rage. No stay nor stint to yellow, since you shankthened that I bathe, burnish me, soul and body, swim and swathe in yellow license. Here I seek suffused with crocus, saffron, orange, as I use with scarlet, purple, every dye, oh, the bow born of the storm cloud. As before, you show scarce recognition, no approval, some mistrust, more wonder at a man become monstrous in garb. Nay, flesh disguised as well through his adventure. Whatso o'er befell, I followed. Whatso o'er it wound that vein you authorized should leave your whiteness stain. Earth's somber stretch beyond your midmost place of vantage, trod that tinct whereof that trace on garb and flesh repel you. Yes, I plead your own permission, your command indeed, that who would worthily retain the love must share the knowledge shrined, those eyes above. Go boldly on adventure, break through bounds. Oh, the quintessential whiteness that surrounds your feet. Obtain experience of each tinge that bickers forth to broaden out. Impinge plainer his foot, its pathway, all distinct from every other. Ah, the wonder, linked with fear, as exploration manifests what agency it was first tipped the crests of unnamed wildflower, soon protruding grow portentous midst the sands, as when his hue betrays him, and the burrowing snake gleams through, till last. But why parade more shame and pain? Are not the proofs upon me? Here again I pass into your presence. I receive your smile of pity, pardon, and I leave. No, not this time, not this last of times I leave you, mute, submitted to my penance, so my foot may yet again adventure, tread from source to issue. One more ray of rays which course each other at your bidding, from the sphere silver and sweet, their birthplace, down that drear dark of the world, you promise shall return your pilgrim jeweled, as with drops o'er the urn the rainbow paints from, and no smatch at all of ghastliness at edge of some cloud pall heaven cowers before, as earth awaits the fall o' the bolt and flash of doom. Who trusts your word tries the adventure and returns, absurd as frightful, in that sulphur steeped disguise, mocking the priestly cloth of gold. So prized the arch heretic was wont to bear away until he reached the burning. No, I say, no fresh adventure, no more seeking love at end of toil and finding calm above my passion, the old statuesque regard, the sad petrific smile. O you, less hard and hateful than mistaken and obtuse, unreason of she intelligence. You, very woman with the pretense to match the male achievement, like enough. Ah, you were easy victors, did the rough, straight way of face itself to smooth, the gruff grind down and grow a whisper, did man's truth subdue, for sake of chivalry and ruth, its rapier edge to suit the bulrush spear, womanly falsehood fights with. Oh, that ear all fact pricks rudely, that thrice superfine femininity of sense, with right divine to waive all process, take results stain free from out the very muck wherein. Ah me, the true slave's querulous outbreak, all the rest be resignation. Forth at your behest I fare. Who knows but this, the crimson quest, may deepen to a sunrise not to gay, to that cold, sad, sweet smile which I obey. Wow, wow, wow. Hail Robert Browning. What an incredible, incredible poem. For those with ears to hear, right? This is the path of generation. This is the path of the muses, falling in love with that muse and willfully going through the cycles of death and rebirth again and again and again, ever in that play, ever in that joyous connection. Profound, right? All right, and that ends our poetry for the evening. I hope you all enjoyed. All right, and we now begin our divination proper. And as always, we start with our Ganapati Oracle. So we invoke Ganapati Ganesh, the divine child, the Lord of beginnings, the guardian of the threshold, and the master of the spirits, the Ganas. And we ask Lord Ganapati to send us an inspiring message through the cards and to help ensure that our words are heard by those who need to hear them. So, Lord Ganapati, what is today's inspiring message? Let's take a look. All right. Inspire. All right. Concentration. 9. That's incredible energy, right? The 9 is the height of the cycle in the Pythagorean system, right? 9 stands for infinity. And this is true also in the tarot. And the 9 in the major arcana of the tarot is the hermit, the Virgo, right? And what is the power of the Virgo? They're the one who does that deep, hard work of refinement, who goes into the depths of oneself and practices the meditation, who goes along that long and lonesome path until the bitter end. And through this hard, dedicated work, they rise to the stars, right? It's the power of the goddess as Psyche, as Astrea. Profound, right? And we see this reflected here in this energy of concentration. It's the same force, it's the same magnitude. We are called to be in that focus, to be in that dedicated work, to face ourselves with love, truth, and honesty in the mirror, and to do that hard work of refinement, right? Practice meditation. And this means to develop a daily disciplined practice, right? Practice magic. This means to develop a daily disciplined work, right? Where we are journaling, where we are engaging, right? We love and adore the gods, and we do it as a regular engagement. We utilize this to transform our life with focus, with love, with concentration, right? Think about where you wish to be, who you wish to be, what you wish to do. You know, all of this requires dedicated work, focus, and action, right? And we have to understand the importance of this energy. You know, we live in a moment now where many of us here in the West have this incredible opportunity for distraction, this incredible opportunity for waste and affluence, you know, and this energy comes hard. This energy comes hard for many, you know, but ultimately, this is what we need to learn. We have to take that time to sit in the self. We have to take that time to practice dedicated focus. It's dedicated focus that will take us forward along the path, And wasteful excess only leads to more wasteful excess. Let's continue. All right. Thank you so much, Ganapati. What a beautiful message. We continue. All right, up next, we're going to go to the Fairy Guardian Oracle. The Fairy Guardian Oracle. And let us invoke the spirits, the fairies, the daimones, the manes, the lares, the genii, the penates, the seleni, the satyrs, the dryads, the naiads, the oreads, the nymphes, the nereids, the lares, the elves and the gnomes, all the spirits of mind, the spirits of place, the spirits of the elements, the spirits of the dead, the spirits of the ancestors. We invite them all in and ask them to watch over our readings, to guide my hands and inspire. What is the message, spirits? Oh, we got a card shooting out, and that'll be our defining image. Let's take a look. All right. Friendship. Friendship. Fairies and humans alike need friends. Now is the time to seek out those who will support and encourage you on your journey to fulfill your dreams. Friendship. This is profound energy, right? You know, in many of the pagan traditions, in many of the polytheistic traditions, you will see this kind of energy. What do I mean, right? What is the height of the virtues in our tradition? It is hospitality, right? Hospitality is not simply for the human, it is for life. And that most certainly includes the spirits. You know, we are called to honor the spirits of place, the spirits of the ancestors. We're called to invite in these connections, you know, and you can develop this through loving connection, right? It's important. On my altar, where we do our regular prayers, we have a dedicated space for the Larrys, for all of the spirits, right? In order to give them that opportunity to come and connect with us. And we take the time to reach out in friendship. We offer them food, we offer them drink, we offer them beautiful smells, you know, and we acknowledge them daily in these live streams, right? It's important. If you wish to, so many people want something from the universe, right? So many people, they wish to engage in the magical tradition with this sense of like, gimme, 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 gimme. But you know, the universe is a reciprocal place. If you wish, you must give, right? It's just how it is. If you give, then you will receive, right? And you must invite in the spirits, develop a connection with them, learn their names, right? Learn who they are, what they like, right? Give them a place to stay. Treat them like a loving friend. And this is a cultivating relationship, a beautiful relationship, you know? And it's about what you make of it. You know, you don't need to be caught up or bound up in tradition unless it's inspiring. Then use it to take you into action. But it's what's important is for you to just connect, to offer something freely, to engage, to recognize the profound energy around you and to welcome it in. That's the message. Peace and love. All right. The spirits can't engage if you don't invite them in, you know. It's funny how, you know, they always make fun of this in these various horror movies and whatnot, but this is the truth, you know. No spirit is going to ever just come into your body and possess you and drive you crazy and destroy you. That's not how it works. You're going to have to develop a relationship. It's going to take time and serious bloody effort, even for the ugly spirits. Sorry. You know? All right, we continue. Okay. So now we're going to begin our tarot proper. But before I do, please give me a like and a subscribe. It really does make a big difference. It boosts everything in the algorithm, and I would truly, truly love and appreciate it. And if anyone would like me to pull them a couple cards, please send me a super chat, a super thanks, or sign up for a YouTube membership. All right, and today we're going to start with a 9-card Saturn Square reading. So remember to take what resonates, discard what does not, and to trust your own personal intuition above all. All right. You know, Brian, this is a common thing, right? You see a lot of the magic of the Greek tradition and a lot of the ideals of the Hellenistic tradition twisted and interpreted in that Christian lens, right? It's funny to me, right? Dionysus is the everyman, right? He calls us into loving hospitality to welcome the stranger and the immigrant. Does this not sound like Jesus? you know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm biased, so take me with a grain of salt, but that's just my perspective. I look at a tradition that's far older, that lives in the same area, and I go, what gives that you guys are the same? Or at least very, 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 very similar. Eat of my body and drink of my blood. Who also says that? Who also says that? You know, it all gets twisted, right? The grain god becomes the dying god, right? The plants get twisted into something else. The wine gets twisted into something else. Anyway, but that hospitality is at the heart of the Dionysian tradition. And you see it. Go read the Bacchae, one of the most profound plays, and you'll see Dionysus as the everyman. And you'll see what happens when you disrespect the stranger, when you disrespect the cultures of others, when you engage in this, what do you call it? Attacking of the minority for political gain, right? The universe doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. And for those who read the Bacchae, you can see it happening all around you. Beautiful. Love it. I mean, we've all had our muse, right? The muse is always with you. We're all twins. You can't be apart. All right. Sortes for the beautiful Steve McQueen. Of course, let's do it. All right. What do we feel like for Steve? Let's take a look. What are we thinking? We're going to go to Lewis Carroll, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass. All right. Muses, what is the message for our dear friend, Steve McQueen? Okay. Ah, well, they may write such things in a book, Humpty Dumpty said in a calmer tone. That's what you call a history of England, that is. Now take a good look at me. I am the one that has spoken to a king. I am. Mayhap you'll never see such another. And to show you I am not proud, you may shake hands with me. And he grinned almost from ear to ear as he leant forward, and as nearly as possible fell off the wall in doing so, and offered Alice his hands. Now that is wild, Steve, right? They may write such things in a book, but I met the queen and I know the truth. Let me reveal the truth to you. Let me tell you. And then all of a sudden he falls off the wall and the truth doesn't get revealed. Now that is a mystical image if I've ever seen one. Meditate on that, Steve. Lots to think about there, because the real answers won't be found in books, nor is anyone capable of telling you. The answer here must be sought yourself. You have to engage the muse and do the hard work. She's teasing you. She's teasing you, right? You can't read it and you can't hear it. You got to find it yourself. All right. That's the message. Peace and love, my dear friend. How beautiful. How beautiful. All right. And we continue. Okay. Where's this stupid thing? Okay, here we go. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. All right. And let us do our 9-card Saturn Square reading now. Okay. And we invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon us, to guide us throughout our days, and to help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. So, Apollo and the Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message from the Thoth Tarot? Let's take a look. All right, inspire. Oh, we got the Prince of Cups. Complicated, interesting energy, the Prince of Cups in our center, right? We're seeing ourselves showing up in this way. So we're going to have to listen and take heed. What is the Prince, right? The Prince energy represents people who are caught up in the air, people who are still trying to figure out their place in the world, people who are still trying to understand the world, who are searching for themselves in the ideal, right? Ultimately, this is necessary energy. It's transitional energy. All of us need to go through this phase, but it must be a phase. Eventually, you have to come down from the heights of the air, recognize that the answers you seek are not found there, and that you have to come into loving commitment. Life is absurd, and you're never going to understand it. No one is going to come and hold your hand and tell you what to do. You're going to have to take the leap and make the risk, and you're going to have to believe in yourself. You have to do it for yourself. You have to take charge for yourself. And this is the lesson for all the princes. But for the Prince of Cups, it's an interesting one, right? He is the air of water. He finds himself caught up and frustrated in this energy. And the water is heavy, right? The water is all about our loving emotional connections, what brings us into harmony with others, what brings us into connection and intimacy with others. And ultimately, this energy is not something we get to choose. We get pulled into the energy of the water, and we have to come into harmony with it. Otherwise it's just going to drag us kicking and screaming. No one gets to choose who they love, no one gets to choose who they are, and we all have to reconcile and wrestle with the waters until we can find our true self and come into harmony with others and loving reciprocity, right? So ultimately, this is a person who's struggling with understanding where they fit and where they belong, struggling with their desires, struggling with that sense of love. See where this goes. Interesting, though. We're seeing this Prince of Cups come into success. Interesting. The success is one of the most powerful cards in the minor arcana. The success, the Six of Discs, is that perfected balance in the earth. This is the earth in its most stable, right? This success is sustainable. We can continue to sit here and to really be in this security, be in this power. We are rewarded, we are recognized, we are secure, right? This is what most people desire from the earth. We don't have to worry. As long as we continue in this energy and maintain ourselves, we can be here forever, right? Really powerful stuff. Oh, look at this. How are we getting into that 6? It's when that prince can connect to the queen. Now, this is interesting, right? First off, no prince is connecting to any queen if they stay a prince. Just not happening. Not happening. There's going to need for this energy of growing up, right? And what I'm seeing here is this prince, though. They're seeing what can come. If this energy is willing to engage in this loving connection with the queen, together they will come into this profound success. The Queen of Swords is beautiful energy, right? This is the water of air. The person who's really in that energy of being the mediator, who seeks wisdom and communication with others, who seeks to teach others, who's really in that loving communicative power, right? Athena energy that seeks to manifest justice, that manifests truth, to bring us into harmony and connection, right? Who seeks to ensure that everyone is heard, everyone gets a chance to speak, bringing us into things like democracy. Really powerful energy, the Queen of Swords. Idealistic energy, but hardworking, communicative, and beautiful, mature. And we see that prince struggling to connect to her. He desires her, but he recognizes that he is in this limited energy of the prince. Let's see. Wow, though. Look at this. The 3 of Cups, loving abundance. This is not just a love connection, right? This is a real, passionate, generative connection. This is a connection that's going to lead to love, friendships, possibly children. The 3 of Cups is the energy of the water in its most generative. The 3 represents the power of the Great Mother, the energy that calls us into harmony, into connection, and into generation, into creativity. So this is really going to manifest all of this profound loving abundance and growth, all of this inspiring connection. Wow, 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 wow. This is a profound energy here. Oh, look, there's more than just the prince here. One prince. We now have the Prince of Discs. What we're seeing is these energies are coming into profound collaboration. The threes usually represent that coming into harmony, working together to overcome. And that's what we're seeing here. The queen is going to lead these knights into profound success. When we bring the waters into the earth, we have that true generative power of growth now. To alone, both of these energies are limited, caught up in the air. But under that guidance of a mature person who can bring them into loving communication, these energies can work together in cooperation and achieve something, right? We're seeing the Prince of Discs. We have that similar Prince energy, that similar disconnected from reality kind of stuff, trying to find ourselves, trying to understand the universe, afraid to commit to anything, and the Prince of Discs it's divided along the pole, right? They have the earth and the air. This is the person they have all this skill, all this ability, and yet they find themselves unable to complete any tasks, unable to commit to a task, because they often start doubting themselves, right? They start doubting the project, or they find something else that they want to do. And so this is this, erratic energy that incredibly imaginative, incredibly skillful, but unreliable. And so that energy needs to be brought into focus, right? It needs to get out of that air. Both of these energies need to come down from the air and come down into the earth, get into the hard work together. And what I'm seeing here is this Queen Mother is really bringing these youths into work, into loving harmony. Wow. Oh, wow. There's more court energy here. The Princess of Cups. Oh, amazing. Interesting. The Princess of Cups represents new life and generation. The princess, this could be a new child, or it could be a new idea, a new job, something that we create that exists outside of ourselves, that we need to nurture and protect, allow to come into itself, to really blossom. The princesses are the earth as their base. This is the Princess of Water, the earth of water. She needs to take that time to build her foundation, to come into herself. She has all this power and potential, but in order for that to realize, she has to be able to grow up. And the Princess of Cups is the princess in her most innocent, right? In her most innocent, right? She comes to offer this energy with love. She wants to nurture the earth and come into connection, but she's in that naivety of youth, and she needs to be protected and guided at this time. This is powerful, though. We're seeing all these youths come together under the guidance of the Queen. And when they can be in that loving, collaborative energy, they manifest the 6 true success. Wow. Look at that. We got the Great Mother crowning the reading. 2 energies of 3 here. This is wild. Wow. The Great Mother, right? This is Venus Pandemos, the lover of all, the creator of all, right? The earth in her most abundant and creative. This is such powerful, powerful energy. When we see the energy of the 3, it calls us into creativity, into nurturing, into connection. It calls us into that heights of the feminine, right? To really embrace that loving, creative flow. She is the feminine in all of its complexity and all of its totality. She represents the infinite diversity itself, and she seeks to manifest that diversity. These 2 energies are intimately related. This is wild. We have so much creative power here. When that prince can connect to that divine feminine, really embrace that energy, they're finding themselves manifesting success, coming into loving abundance, connecting to the child and to the prince. Wow, there's so much beautiful magic here. This is wild. All right, we have the 5 of Cups, disappointment. Connected to that Empress, that Venus energy, we have Venus energy. The 5 of cups, right? The fives always represent the magic of Aphrodite, the energy that calls us to stand atop the four elements and to reach up into the heights of the stars, to draw down the moon, to have that audacity to exceed ourselves, to push our limits, right? And it's that pushing of the limits that's going to lead us into success, into connection. And we need this goddess energy to guide us in that through that disappointment, to be in that loving, generative, nurturing flow. Wow. Yeah. We're seeing ultimately this is all about re-understanding the role of this great mother energy. We need to go to the root of the air. Both of these princes, they having an issue with the air. They need to come into new understanding in the air. And to truly understand the air, they're going to have to understand that earth energy of Venus. This is wild. For the princess to grow up, they're really going to have to go back to the root of the element of air, connect to this princess who will help them can come to the very end, come into true self-realization. But it's going to be a hard path. But this is the path forward. Both of these knights need to reconcile in the air. They need to come into loving abundance, break free out of that disappointing energy and learn to cooperate, learn to support that youth. Wow. That's interesting. Ultimately, I see us here as that prince energy, right in the center. And as the prince, we are being called to really embrace this loving generative connection, to connect to all of the people around us, the children, the princes, the queen, to bring them into success. And we need to recognize our role. The prince is being called to embody that great mother energy, that energy that's going to call them to come into loving connection. And they need to understand this pursuit of love in a different way. Disappointment is only one aspect of that energy. The other aspect is the striving. We want to share our cup. We want to be fulfilled. We want to come into love. And that's what the prince is doing. They're reconciling the waters, embracing that empress energy, and connecting to these beautiful people around them in order to come into true success and abundance, right? True success and abundance, right? It will come when we gain that new perspective of the empress, when we embrace that empress energy and connect in loving harmony with all of these beautiful people around us. Right? Together, we can do that hard work that can transform the earth. Together, we can uplift this princess, provide her the foundation, come to new understanding and perspective, right? All together, we come into this loving generation. All right. That's the message. How beautiful. I hope that resonated with you. It certainly resonated with me. And thank you so much to the Thoth Tarot and Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. Awesome. All right. And once again, if anyone would like me to pull them a couple cards or give them a sore taste, please send me a super chat, a super thanks, or sign up for a YouTube membership. All right. Let me just take a quick drink and we'll continue. Okay. And we're now going to go to the Egyptian Tarot of Thelema by Oliver St. John. And we will once again do another 9-card Saturn Square community reading. So remember, take what resonates, discard what doesn't, and trust your own personal intuition above all else. Oh, just as I'm about to get started, we have another donation. Perfect. Love it. So we will pause and give a beautiful read for Mother Rhea. All the love to you, Mother Rhea. So appreciate you and your continued support. So let us invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon Rhea, to guide her throughout her day and to help her to realize the beauty of her dreams. So Apollo and the Muses, what is the inspiring and empowering message for Mother Rhea? Let's take a look. All right. The Ten of Wands, oppression. The Ten of Wands, oppression. Wow. This is heavy, powerful stuff, The Ten of Wands is the breaking of the chains of Saturn, the coming into true self-acceptance and recognition. No longer are we bound down by the false expectations of others. No longer are we putting false pressures upon ourselves. but we're now facing ourselves as we are in the moment in the mirror with love. And this is really incredible because once you do that, now you can engage in the true transformation. Now you can pursue your true desires, no longer caught up in bullshit, seeing yourself honestly. Now we can really begin. We can go back to the root of the element of fire and flame ourselves and pursue this with true, passionate understanding. You know who you are and what you want. No longer will the feelings and ideas of others dictate that for you. Let's continue. Yeah, and look at this. The Ace of Discs, the Ace of Discs, right? Profound new beginnings and opportunities, right? The Ace of Discs calls us to really engage the earth. We have to recognize what this could be. This signifies a really profound opportunity, and it could lead to moving, it could lead to a new job. What it certainly implies is transformative work, right? And when we see the ace implies the 9 and the 10. And in the energy of the discs, the 9 is gain, power, right? Transformative wealth, the heights of the earth in its most abundant and fruitive. And in the 10, we see the energy of wealth and accomplishment, achievement, not only coming into power and abundance, but creating something and reaping the rewards and the benefits of that creation. And again, with the 10, you can return to the root of the cycle, empowered with experience. There's so much beautiful energy here, right? There's a reciprocity here. When we complete the fire, we can come into true empowered action. Right. Okay. No, okay. I'm seeing this clearer now. There's been a new opportunity here. And it's this new opportunity that's leading to self-discovery. It's leading to you finding yourself, right? But also the other key to self-discovery, to coming in and breaking free of those chains, to really breaking and ending the cycle, is this energy of the primordial water, the elemental water, right? The hangman, the 12, which takes us again to the 3, the great mother energy. And the hangman is all about flipping your perspective upside down, facing your fears. When this energy is here, we have this painful, intuitive feeling. We understand that things aren't right, that we're not secure, and that in order for us to come into security, to come into harmony and flow, to be united with those waters, we're going to have to make a profound change. This requires a sacrifice, disciplined, willful action. No longer can we stay in this present energy. This present energy is not serving us. We have to make a change, and we have to be willing to let go of false patterns that no longer serve us. But look where it leads us. It leads us into profound self-understanding, and it leads to profound new opportunities. Don't prevent yourself. Make the sacrifices that are necessary to achieve. Face your fears and overcome them, right? Don't be bound by the false expectations of others. That's the message. I hope it resonated with you. All the love to you, Mother Rhea. How beautiful. All right, and up next, we've got another donation here. Thank you so much, Steve the Welder. All the love in the world to you. Really appreciate you. And let's pull you a couple cards. And once again, we will go to the Thoth Tarot by Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. And let us invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon Steve, to guide them throughout their day and to help them to realize the beauty of their dreams. So Apollo and the Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message for Steve? Give our cards a quick shuffle here. Muses inspire. Oh, wow. Okay. The 2. Now, this is heavy stuff, Steve. The 2 is Aphrodite Urania, the highest muse, Hecate, the light hidden in the darkness, the energy that carries you across the abyss and into the heights of the beautiful. Whenever this card appears, it signifies profound initiation. It signifies a need to sit in the darkness and in the silence, to look for the signs and to engage in the profound conversation with the highest muse, right? This is heavy stuff. She's calling you into your true will and into flow and harmony. But in order to get there, there's going to be a profound challenge. Yeah. What is the challenge? The Eight of Cups, indolence. This is one of the heaviest cards in the whole Minor Arcana. The Eight of Cups is this energy of we want loving connection, we want friendship, we want partnership. We invite this energy in, but then we are afraid to engage, right? We're afraid to put ourselves out there. We're afraid to connect with the beautiful people around us. We stay in our comfort zone. We see that here in this card. The Four Cups here are overflowing in abundance, while the other four rot on the wayside, wishing to be connected. You know, this is that energy of being in this fearful mode, you know, and I understand it because people are ultimately our greatest thing. Like, they're the most threatening thing most of us are ever going to deal with. And it's truly nerve-wracking to try and connect to others. But ultimately, there's so much beauty here. So much beauty here. And you want this energy. You've invited this energy in, you know? So ultimately, you're going to have to connect. Let's see here. Yeah, look at that. Interesting. Adjustment. You know, the adjustment energy is about the power of Libra. It's about recognizing the need to take action, to come into harmony, to come into truth and justice. You know, real justice requires an adjustment every single time, right? If you wish for atonement, for forgiveness, you have to be willing to change and to no longer repeat the actions. You have to be willing to take accountability and to do something to achieve, you know, to make amends. And this is that energy that strives for that kind of a force. In the face of this energy of the Eight, it's saying there's a need for you to come into better balance, to come into better harmony. There's a need for greater communication and understanding. There's a need for you to understand and to think about these energies on the outside. You know, are there people in your life that desire a deeper connection with you that you are not connecting with? Right? Is there a call for you to be more in the water energy at this moment? There's a heavy need to really sit and listen, you know, and to think about this idea of how do I come into true virtue and connection with the people around me? You know, we have to recognize that in order to truly achieve our highest, most profound will, we have to do it in relation and in connection with the people around us. You know, that we are best, we fulfill ourselves when we fulfill others. There's a mutual loving reciprocity here. You know, so there's a need for these to come into harmony, for you to recognize the people around you and to try to come into communication with them. All right. That's the message. And recognize, you know, this is a challenge. This is a forcing you out of your comfort zone. This is an initiation. The people you will meet when you break this energy will offer you profound insight that you didn't expect. All right. That's the message. Peace and love. Sit in the darkness, in the silence, and listen. All right. Amazing. Thank you so much, Steve. And once again, if anyone would like me to pull them a couple cards, please send me a super chat, a super thanks, or sign up for a YouTube membership. Okay, and let's continue. We'll now do that community Saturn Square reading I was talking about. And we'll go to the Egyptian tarot of Thelema. And we invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon us, to guide us throughout our day, and to help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. So Apollo and the Muses, what is today's empowering and inspiring message? Let's take a look. All right, and our center card and defining image is the world. The world. Wow, the world is such heavy energy, right? The 21, the final card in the tarot, the completing of the cycle. And the 21 represents that magic of Hestia, the first and the last. The 21, right, is also that power of the three the great mother force that calls us into loving harmony. This is the final surrender, the final moment before a new beginning, before that fool takes another profound leap and is ripped apart. Profound energy here. And when we see this, it calls us to really sit in this recognition of the ending, to surrender to flow, to accept whatever comes, and to be in that nostalgic energy, to think on their past and to learn from those lessons. All right, look at this. We have the 19, the sun, Saket, the most beautiful card in the whole. Oh, sorry. This isn't this. It's up for Saket. Sorry, this is Lady Babylon, strength. Wow. This is incredible energy. What takes us to the end? What manifests the world? When we can engage this energy of lust, of strength, of Lady Babylon, of Leo, that force that calls us to the heights of the ideal, to manifest the animal and the human in their absolute height, the masculine and the feminine in their absolute heights, to draw down the moon and call the apocalypse, the force that says, I will endure, right? We come to the end when we can engage in this passionate action. We see what we want and we pursue it, regardless of consequence and no matter how long it takes. Wow. And look at that. We have the Prince of Swords. This is interesting. You know, the Prince of Swords is the heir of air, right? Like all the princes, they represent people who are trying to figure out their place in the world, who are caught up in the heights of imagination, who are trying to understand and figure out what they want to do with themselves. You know, necessary, beautiful energy, but transitory energy. You can't stay in this for too long or it becomes deeply problematic, you know. And here we have the Prince of Swords, the heir of air, the prince that is most disconnected from reality. They're caught up way beyond in the air, you know. This energy ultimately often finds itself lashing out at itself and at others, right? Engaging in this profound victimization. But there's also this incredible reason here. If this prince can engage that air and take a moment to apply that intellect of theirs to themselves, you know? So what we're seeing here is we're showing up in a really limited way, in a struggling way, in a way where we need to do a lot of self-growth. But ultimately, we're still come to the end if we have that passionate desire to get there. Wow. Yeah, look at this. This is powerful. The Three of Wands, virtue, the magic of Hecate. The Three of Wands is incredible energy, one of my favorite cards in the Minor Arcana. This is the force that calls us to recognize the people around us, right? That calls us to come into loving harmony, to recognize and understand that that every person is a star, that is love under will, right? That we must speak up for others, that we have to fight and inflame ourselves when others are taken advantage of, right? If we seek to harmonize, to put that passion into connection, all of a sudden we'll come into this empowered completion. Wow. Let's see. And look at that. We have the 20, the penultimate moment before the end, right? And the 20, the ion, is incredible energy. This is the primordial fire, the primordial fire. You know, this is the shedding of ego, the taking of atonement and of action before we come into completion, right? And look, that virtue calls us to take atonement, to take responsibility, right? This energy recognizes what it's done wrong and makes an exerted effort to do something else. It's responsible, you know, it moves beyond those egos. It gives up their desire. It strives for the heights. It strives for purity, for overcoming. Really profound here. Where are we going? Okay. And we've got the Two of Cups, love. Look, when we can really embrace that power of love, that power of uplifting and protecting the people around us, of striving to come into connection with the people around us, to recognize that our will is best fulfilled when we can do it with others, in connection with others. You know, when we can recognize this loving energy, we can come to that completion as well. And it's love that takes us through the fire. It's love that calls us to shed our ego and to persist and to overcome, right? Again, we have to pass through these flames. And the love is such profound energy too, right? The love is going to transform that prince. It's going to call him into the fires. The love is that magic of Eros that sees the beauty and the joy in the world around it, that understands the other side of the negative, right? That can see Aphrodite in everything, that cries out in loving adoration. And we can utilize this positivity. We can utilize it to shape ourselves, to transform ourselves, to make that prince come into loving harmony, to come to completion, to pass through the fires. Let's see. Oh, wow. Look at that. We have the two, Hecate, right? Aphrodite Urania, the highest muse, the voice hidden in the darkness, in the silence. Diana. Incredible energy here. When we see the high priestess, it always signifies an initiation. And this is our initiation. If the prince really wants to come into completion, into understanding, into self recognition, they're going to have to reconcile the fires. They're going to have to come into loving connection with others. And they're going to have to persist in this energy until they can learn to live in true virtuous harmony. Wow, wow, wow. Oh, wow, that's painful. Yeah, the Nine of Swords, right? The Nine of Swords, overthinking, right? So much of our issue is all in the air. We're seeing the prince is here, right? The Nine of Swords is here. Cruelty is such intense energy. We're now in this real victimization. We're lashing at the self and we're lashing out at others. This is the energy that views everything that is out to get it, and it's in this profound, profound violence, lashing out in fear like a feral dog, and this is really painful, painful energy. And the only way really to pass through this is to step outside of ourselves, to recognize that we are manifesting our nightmares, that we are, involved in this deep, deep fear that's twisting and not seeing things honestly. You're right. The interesting thing with the nines is that the nine and the tens are ultimately, the same kind of energy, the same kind of energy. There's not really a shift in energy between the 9 and 10, but rather perspective. The 9 is projecting into infinity, and the 10 is returning to the zero, the root of the element, re-beginning the cycle anew. And that's what we need to do is step outside of ourselves, take a deep breath, recognize that, we are making things so much worse. And look, the Nine of Swords is all caught up with the Ion, which is all about this energy of accountability, right? Facing the fires, right? We're afraid to take responsibility for ourselves, but ultimately the Muse is saying, just approach it with love. Just approach it with love. Things are not as bad as you think, And here's the thing. If you admit, you take responsibility and you do differently, then everything's okay. Right? Then you pass through the flames. Powerful stuff. And everyone's better for it, Yeah, again, we're seeing the worry, the 5 of discs. Man, we're really worried about having to take responsibility. The prince, the prince really is that decadent youth, to be in the heights of the imagination like this, completely disconnected from reality, to be in this limited sphere where they're not doing anything, right? They're just engaged in themselves. And the thing for the princes, they need to recognize the people around them. They need to come into loving connection, right? They need to come down in the earth and deal with their situation. Break free out of this cruel thinking, this self-victimization, right? And then throw themselves in the flames of passion. When they can engage that passionate energy that calls them to recognize the others and they can take atonement for their actions, they find themselves breaking out of this childishness. They find themselves breaking out of that decadence, coming in to true profound responsibility, completing this cycle. That prince is ending and we are transforming into something far greater. But to really do it, we have to recognize the people around us, embrace love, take accountability, break out of that fearful energy, out of this destructive, worrying energy, and come into that muse. All right. That's the message. I hope it resonated with you. It certainly resonated with me. How beautiful. Thank you, Oliver St. John and the Thoth Tarot. All right, up next, we've got a beautiful donation from my dear friend Veldane. Thank you so much, Veldane, for all your love and support. And let us pull you a few cards. And we will once again go to the Thoth Tarot by Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. And we will invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon Veldane, to guide them throughout their days, and to help them to realize the beauty of their dreams. So, Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message for Veldane? All right, let's take a look. Inspire. And welcome to all the new members. Thank you for the donations and membership, Veldane. Wow, the Three of Cups. What's on your mind? What's your fixation? What's the energy calling you into? Right? Oh, that's, yeah. Oh, you're Scorpio, the heaviest of all the waters. And you've got one of the heaviest waters cards there is in your center. Right? Now's the time for connecting with others in loving intimacy. Really coming into that generative flow. Right? And Scorpio, you have that power to really understand people in this way. It's hard for you to connect to other people's in that way because you understand people so well. But this is where the muse is calling you, right? Interesting. There's a profound person who's coming into your life. This is going to be a great friendship. Or could this be you? Let's see here. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, there's a really interesting connection here. The Queen of Discs represents the water of earth, the person who's in the kin building energy, the one who's focused on doing what's practical and taking care of the people around them, who's fulfilled and uplifted when they are supporting the people around them, right? Really seeks to bring people to their best. Mary Poppins energy, this is the energy you're committing or you're connecting to, an empowered person who's responsible and grounded, right? Beautiful. How you're showing up. You're showing up in an interesting way, but in a way that is expected for you. The fire of air, right? This is the one who seeks to know and to understand and wants to be understood, right? You're engaged in the heights of the air, and the air is all about wisdom and communication. And the air is beautiful because you can gain so much understanding, but there's so much conflict in the air. And this night, in many ways, relishes the conflict, enjoys the struggle of understanding, enjoys striving to explain themselves. But it is a struggle nonetheless. And what I'm seeing here is you're coming into connection with this person. And this person is bringing more. They're bringing more than just connection to you. They're bringing you into a loving community, into profound opportunity, right? So take the time to look around, to really engage the waters, and to be fulfilled in friendship with others. Be in that generative flow, right? That's the message. How beautiful. Thank you so much, Veldane. I hope that resonated with you. Beautiful. All right. Okay. And with that, we're coming up to an hour and a half. So I think we're going to hop over now to our sortes. But if anyone else would like me to pull them a few cards, you can still get a... Oh, I'm glad that resonated, Veldane. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And remember, with the Three of Cups, this is not just this. It could be romantic, but it's certainly not only romantic, right? The Three of Cups is all encompassing in the waters. This is friendship, partnership, collaboration. That person is leading you into a whole new abundance, and you need to embrace it. Okay, let's see. We're going to go to The Divine Comedy by Dante. And this will be our first sortaste of the evening. And let us invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon us, to guide us throughout our days, and to help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. So, Apollo and the Muses, what is today's empowering and inspiring message from Dante? The banners of the king of hell advance towards us, so look in front of you to see if you can see him. The banners of the king of hell advance towards us. Can you recognize the king of hell as he advances towards you? Can you see that profound energy of Lucifer Apollo? You know, the devil comes to challenge, comes to be the grand shaman, to force you to recognize yourself in the mirror and to overcome your limits, right? Powerful stuff. We continue. All right, let's go to Thomas More, The Complete Poetical Works. Muses, what is the message from More? Inspire. She gave the lion fangs of terror, and on the ocean crystal mirror taught the unnumbered scally throng to trace their liquid path along. For while the umbrage of the grove she plumed the warbling world of love. Wow. While for the umbrage of the grove she plumed the warbling world of love, the lion in the flangs of terror. Man, this makes me think of the Muse, right? The Muse, hidden in her sacred grove, the spirit of the river and the lake, right? Wild. Let's continue. We're going to go now to Marlowe, Dr. Faustus. Muses, what is the message from Dr. Faustus? Inspire. Pythagoras' metempsychosis, were that true? This soul should fly from me, and I being changed unto some Brutus beast. Wow. Right? The theory of reincarnation. When we die, will we turn into some brutish beast? I mean, we're already humans, pretty brutish. Seems likely we'll be reincarnated as something similarly brutish. That seems to be life's theme at the moment. Wild. Let's continue. We're going to go to The Telltale Heart and Other Writings, Edgar Allan Poe. Muses, what is the message from Poe? Inspire. I saw, but with how terrible an exaggeration, I saw the lips of the black-robed judges. Wow, I saw the lips of the black-robed judges, a terrible exaggeration. You know, and I'm immediately thinking of the judges of the underworld, right? Who once lived as judges in our life, like Radamanthus and many others, you know? Wild stuff. Wild stuff. Let's see. Where do we want to go? We're going to go to Albert Camus. Albert Camus, The Stranger. Muses, what is the message from Albert Camus? I recognized it as the same one that had been ringing in my ears for many long days, and I realized that all that time I had been talking to myself. Are we not always talking to ourselves? Is it not always a profound, one-sided conversation? Wild. All right. We're going to go to Women Who Run with Wolves. Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. We must keep it to ourselves without giving it all away to whomever asks, or to whichever stealthily inspiration suddenly happens upon us, telling us it would be good to tip the pot and empty out finest soulfulness out into the mouths of others or onto the ground. You know, this is powerful stuff. You know, there's a reality here. If you give people the answer, it doesn't necessarily serve them. You know, people need to go on that journey of self discovery. They need to do the hard work themselves, right? Hard work themselves. And if you just give them the answers, they may not ever fully comprehend it. And you may have just done them a deep disservice. You may have cheated them out of a true understanding, you know? So, all right, we continue. We're going to go to Lord Byron, selected poetry and letters. And gazing on the dead, she thought his face faded or altered into something new. And gazing on the dead, she saw his face alter into something new. Wow. Interesting. Okay, let's see. We're going to do one final sortes here. And then we're going to call it. We're going to go to Armen Klages, Cosmogonic Eros. Muses, what is the message from Klages? Inspire. Blessed is he who has seen this of earth-born men, but he who has not partaken in those deeds, those holy ones, an unequal lot is he apportioned in the darkness surrounding death. Wow. You got to go through the profound initiation. Blessed is he who has gone through that. You know, everyone else, you got to take that leap. Wild. All right. And with that, we're going to go now to the hymns of Orpheus. And we'll end with a beautiful reading. Let's see. And we will go to the goddess Protheria. To the goddess Protheria. O venerable goddess, hear my prayer, for labored pains are thy peculiar care. In thee, when stretched upon the bed of grief, the sex, as in a mirror view relief, guard of the race, endued with gentle mind, to helpless youth, benevolent and kind, benignant nourisher, great nature's key, belongs to no divinity but thee. Thou dwellest with all in manifest to sight, in solemn festivals are thy delight. Thine is the talk to loose the virgin zone, and thou in every work art seen and known. With births you sympathize, though pleased to see the numerous offspring of fertility. When racked with nature's pangs and sore distress, the sex invoke thee as the soul's sure rest. For thou alone canst give relief to pain, which art attempts to ease but tries in vain. Assisting goddess, venerable power, who bringest relief in labor's dreadful hour, hear, blessed Diane, and accept my prayer, and make the infant race thy constant care. Hail, Protheria, how beautiful. And now let us end with our prayer. And we cry out in loving adoration to the great mother, the twins, and the muses, the one, duality, and generation. And we ask the muses to sing in us the songs of inspiration, to guide us in our daily wanderings, and to teach us to listen and perceive with reasoned clarity. Thank you all for joining me. Peace and love, and take care. Hail Hestia.